Today we have a video specifically about the social work side hustle, and I want to talk money with you. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Mental Health with Melissa. If you're new here, I'm Melissa. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more content. I post new videos every single Sunday and Wednesday, and subscribing to my channel really helps me get mental health information out there to our communities of color and tons of free LCSW test prep. I have a social work study LCSW test prep program that can be purchased down below in the description box if you're interested. And today though, we have a video specifically about the social work side hustle, and I want to talk money with you. I have a video that I will link below called the 6-Figure Social Worker, and I haven't really done any videos like that lately because my channel has really been focused around the LCSW test prep, and information about becoming a social worker or a mental health provider. But I don't want the social work salary, social work income stuff to go overshadowed by other things, because it's just as important. And I really want to break down this stigma of social workers being underpaid, and that if you're a social worker, then you get paid low and that's it, because that's simply not the case. You can become a social worker and you can make that money. And today I want to explore the social work side hustle with you. And so what that means is that you will be basically taking advantage of all this investment that you put in yourself. So let's get into it. Stay tuned if you are interested. So I don't want anybody to get this twisted or anything like that, because I'm not saying that you join social work to make money. That's obviously not why I can't say any, but I would say that that's not why people normally join the mental health profession field, right? And that can be said specifically for social work. But I do have to say that there is such a stigma of low-paying jobs, low-paying positions being associated with social work. And I really highly suggest that you take a look at the 6-Figure Social Work video that I did. I'm going to link it down below. Now that we have a little bit of information about the history of the social work origins, we see right away that before social work even became an occupation, it was a volunteer job. So people were not getting paid when they first started doing social work. So right away we see this history, the historical component of social work, and how there was already this form, because I also go into the history of social work and why there is kind of this label of social workers getting paid so low. And, you know, if you look at our other healthcare professional counterparts, if you're working with like RNs, for example, a lot of them have BSNs and they get paid much more than MSWs get paid. And MSWs have a master's degree. And so just right there, in terms of the payment, we see how much more the medical field, in terms of physical health, is put on this pedestal, just in terms of looking at salary and money, not even trying to like specifically articulate that, well, certain healthcare workers are more important than others. Even though that's not actually being said, we can see it being kind of implied in the rates that a lot of social work professionals are being paid. And so I want to be very transparent about money and be very transparent about the social work profession. And I think that money transparency is so important, especially because if you don't talk about money, then a lot of the time there's just, like, again, more of this stigma that comes up. I want to talk about some of the different ways that you can become a 6-figure social worker. So I want to talk about different side hustles. So you really invested in yourself. You invested in yourself. You invested in your career at the end of the day. You got a bachelor's degree, you got a master's degree, you put in your time to get your license, and that took hours of studying. It took a lot of money to put towards licensure. You have to keep up your CEUs and all of that stuff. So what can you do to get some of that side money? So this is assuming that you do already have like a full-time job or a part-time job at least. There are so many different ways that you can come up with an additional income. And one of the ways is working as a per diem hospice social worker. So if you enjoy working in the healthcare field, a lot of hospice agencies hire per diem is just kind of a healthcare word that they describe like as needed. So if they need you for a specific job, then they'll call you, or you can ask for a specific amount of patients, and you won't have to commit to working with the agency full time. It'll just be like maybe on the weekends, or if you want like one patient a night or something, after like going home, you can visit a patient right after you get off of your full-time job or something. And they usually pay like at an hourly rate, or they pay for like a social work assessment, because hospice agencies are required to have social work assessments, and of course social workers can only do those. So they might pay you like $100 for a social work assessment, and every time they get a new patient, they may reach out to you and say, hey, can you do the social work assessment, because it's a part of their like healthcare compliance for hospice, because they need to have that for that patient. So that's one way that you can kind of make an additional side hustle income. On top of that, there's also like emergency room social work positions. If we're still on the healthcare side of social work, you can always try to apply for a local, or maybe even like not so local if you're okay with commuting further away, a hospital where you work as an ER social worker. So usually when a patient comes into the ER and has any social needs, then you might meet with them to help give them resources. And that's, again, like per diem, or you can do that part-time and have that additional income. And so those are healthcare, on the healthcare side of things. On the other side of things, not only are we trained in the healthcare sort of field, but we're also trained with our work with families and communities. So if you have a special niche, like whether that be having worked in HR previously, or program development, you can act as a contract worker and really solicit your services for providing like part-time HR work to companies, or again, providing part-time sorts of services to a program that needs assistance with policy development or something like that. And, on that same note, if you are a clinician, or you're licensed, or you have a specialty field as a social worker, you can also solicit your services as a consult service to any sort of organization. So an example of that is working at, say you work at a hospital and you're a dialysis social worker. Say that there is, and this is your specialty, say that there is a dialysis center and they need reading materials for their families, and they reach out to you to create those reading materials because you have like the expertise of like what sorts of resources families may need when somebody has dialysis appointments, or grief and loss sorts of materials. So with me, for example, I'm in private practice and my specialty is grief and loss. And so a dialysis center actually reached out to me and told me that their grief and loss materials are outdated, and they asked me to create some grief and loss material. So they consulted with me and I reviewed what they had. I created my own. I revised what they already had. I gave that to them and they paid me as like a provider just for that one job. I can't remember what sort of provider that is, but you have to add all of that to your taxes. So that's another sort of way that you can get that ball rolling with the side hustle profession. And tutoring, tutoring, if you are like near any colleges and you know of anybody that is in the MSW program and they are taking a class and they just don't get the material, and you have a lot of knowledge in that particular area, then utilize that. So the goal of this video again is to give you some ideas to really take advantage of all that money that you invested in yourself for school, because you really did. You again had the bachelor's, the master's. If you're licensed, you had to pay to get your licensure. And so I really want to empower our field to make sure that you know what's out there for you. You have the opportunities at your fingertips, and you basically have information, and you can use this to your benefit. So tell me what sorts of different side hustles that you have going on. If you're a social worker, I'd love to hear about it. And if you have any questions, leave them in the section down below. Until next time, managing mental health matters.